I welcome you in our another excited event. Indeed, this is the second branch meeting in the month of Feb. We are more active these days, and it is because of you, because the demand from the branch and from the members and from the non-members, we're receiving a lot. Today, we have brought a person who was chair for the IOSH, former chair previously, Mr. Islam Adra. He's a global HSC educate. He will be speaking about the career success. He is a person who brought a lot of changes to IOSH previously, and he was one of the successful chair for us. He has introduced the success story and much more. And indeed, it's a pleasure for us today to having him here. And indeed, he will be sharing some sort of things which we might never hear previously. Before we start this event, I would like to request you everyone to please keep mute your mic unless you're asked for it. The question and answer will be noted down by the communication coordinator, Mr. Asif, and at the end of the session, he will be conveying these all to the speaker, and the speaker will be answering you these all accordingly. A few things, please. I'm looking to the names of the attendees. Please make sure that your name is there, your email address or your name is there, because we will be issuing the certificates. So make sure that your name is here, because I can see few of the attendees with the mobile phone names such as iPhone, Galaxy, etc., etc. So make sure that your full name is there. Another rule which we had put previously, that you need to attend the entire event and then only we can give you a certificate. Because just getting in, pop in and pop out won't be very beneficial for you and for us as well. So please help us, stay with us in this one of the great event here. We will be now starting in a while. Before we start, this event will be recorded, and with the permission of the speaker and IOSH, that recording and that slides will be available on the IOSH website in a week time. So I would like to invite Mr. Islam Adra. The platform is yours. Please entertain us with this great event.
Thank you, Sayed. And thank you for that intro, for that humbling intro. I'm excited to be here. You know, as I see the names of the people entering the rooms, as I see some of the faces on the screen, you know, some familiar faces, some old friends. It's 6:30 a.m. here, but I'll tell you what, I am energized and I'm ready to rock and roll. You've been after me for a couple of months, Sayed, and I do apologize for the delay, but I'm here now. And like I said, I'm excited to be amongst you, amongst many of my old friends and colleagues. And when you first approached me, I gave it a bit of thought. What do I want to speak about? What do I want to tell IOSH UAE? I don't want to talk about scaffolding. I don't want to talk about no technical stuff. And so I thought, let me try to inspire the audience. Let me talk about career success. What better subject to talk about than climbing the corporate ladder? To tell you the truth, this is the first time that I deliver a talk of this nature. I normally talk about safety leadership, about organizational culture. So this is actually the first, you guys are actually the first to hear some of these stories. Let me quickly run through the agenda. I'm going to start off by introducing myself, because for many people who do not know who I am, you're probably wondering to yourself, what authority does this guy have to tell us about career success and progression? You know, I think I have to establish a bit of credibility, a bit of trust amongst you to be able to talk about a subject like this. I'm then going to dive a bit deeper about my inspiration for talking to you about this. What is it exactly that inspired me to choose this topic? And then I've divided the presentation up into 4 key lessons. And like I said, I'm going to be sharing stories from my own personal journey, which, you know, most people are not aware of. So really excited to start sharing that. Let me talk a bit about myself, and by no means to brag, but again, I think I need to establish some form of credibility to people who do not know who I am. So I'm an HSC a professional with more than 13 years of experience, international experience in high-risk industries. So I started off in construction, went into oil and gas manufacturing. Currently, like I said, it's 6:30 a.m. here. I am in the beautiful province of British Columbia on the west coast of Canada. I currently look after Rio Tinto's British Columbia operations. Rio Tinto is one of the largest mining companies in the world. And I'll talk to you a bit about Rio Tinto in a while. So I look after the smelter for Rio Tinto in this part of Canada. Got a large team of professionals that report into me. The smelter is serviced by a port. It's serviced by rail. We have a hydropower facility up in the mountains, which is only accessible by helicopter and boats. So that's where I currently am. For those of you wondering where I disappeared, I'm in Canada at the moment. Throughout my career, I've worked for several Fortune 500 and FTSE 100 companies. So I've worked for the likes of Rio Tinto, Danaher, Fortive, Weir, in senior positions in these companies. Like Syed mentioned, I had the honor of chairing the UAE branch in 2019, 2020. Together with the team, we introduced a strategy which, as a direct result, increased the UAE membership that year by 11%. So just to give you a framework of what, a benchmark of what that means, the year prior to mine, they increased it by 2%. So we really put the UAE branch on the map and set the standard globally for other branches and groups within IOSH. I'm an HSE advocate and edutainer. What that means is I'm a content creator. I'm very into videography. I make videos about safety. You can visit my YouTube channel. You can friend me on LinkedIn, and you can see some of those videos. In fact, some of those videos have been shared with the International Labor Organization, and I'm told that they actually have disseminated them in some of their trainings. So really, really big on videography in multiple languages, English, Arabic, and French. As a result of all that, I'm regularly invited to speak at international conferences and forums and to judge prestigious events, the likes of the Expo 2020 Better Together Awards, Mead events, Daman events. So I'm very active in that space. And last but not least, I'm a PhD student. I am a PhD student with Lancaster University, and I'm doing a PhD on the subject of safety leadership. Safety leadership is very close to my heart, and maybe in the future I can be invited again to share some of my learnings in that PhD. So let me tell you a bit more about why I chose this topic. I'm going to show you 3 quotes on the screen, and I'm sure some of you can relate to what you will see. So I'm going to read the first one. Hi, sir. Hope you are doing well. Do you have any vacancy for HSE officer? The second one, dear sir, I'm amazed with your network, and I was hoping of any vacancy for the position of HSE officer, and so on and so forth. I'm open to new opportunities. Would you help me? Any help would be much appreciated. Thanks and best wishes. And the last quote, dear sir, if you do not mind, I like to ask your help if there's a job vacancy for experienced HSE engineer in your company. Now, what you see on the screen are messages that I get at least once a day. I get messages like this once a day, at least, on my LinkedIn mail. And I'm the type of person that will not ignore any message. If you message me, you can guarantee that I will respond to you. I find it disrespectful if I don't respond. But I've come to quickly learn that these messages, you're not going to get a job like that. 1 in a million people may get a job like this, but people generally ignore these messages, and the success rate of getting a job like that are very, very slim. So I said to myself, look, I need to put something together to maybe give some strategies, some tips about what you can do to increase your chances of getting a job. And so this is kind of the inspiration for my talk. Let's jump into the meat of the issue, and let me tell you about lesson number 1. Like I said, I'm going to share stories in order to kind of make the message stick. I'm going to share stories from my own personal journey, from my own personal life. And the first lesson that I learned very, very early on in my career is be your best. And to introduce that, let me speak about point number one. And, I graduated from the American International School in Abu Dhabi. And then I traveled to Canada and started a bachelor in mechanical engineering at McGill University. Now, for many of you, from our backgrounds, from our cultures, there's three types of jobs that are seen as the jobs. It's either engineering, it's law, or it's medicine. You choose one of those three. Now, to be fair, my parents never forced anything upon me, but I was brought up in that culture where those were the three, domains that you could choose from to be a respected member of society. And I chose engineering. I chose a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. I traveled to Canada, started at McGill. And every year I would visit my parents who were in Abu Dhabi back and forth, at least twice a year, in the summer and the winter. And when I would visit Abu Dhabi, I would frequent my dad's business. My dad had a business, and I would visit the business, to learn, to work, to meet people. And very early on, there was an office at my dad's work, which had two people. One was a younger individual, he was about his late 20s, early 30s, very energetic individual, very motivated. And the other was an individual between the ages of 50 and 60. And it looked like he was not happy to be there. He did not have the vibe to work. And as every year as I would come, I would look into that office, and that young individual, he was really motivated. He would go home, he would, try to improve things, maybe, make improvements outside of work. And he started to grow within the company. And you have another individual who was sitting there and didn't really grow. And so it became very obvious to me that if you do not love what you do, chances are you are not going to be the best at what you do. And I learned that very, very early on. And after 5 years of mechanical engineering, I said to myself, look, I don't think I love, it's a fascinating topic, do not get me wrong, but I don't think it's for me. I don't think that's where I'm going to shine and do my best. If you do not love what you do, you are not going to find the discretionary energy to go after 5 p.m., 6 p.m., to go back home and do something with that field, to innovate, to add value to the field. If you do not love what you do, you will not do that. And so 5th year of engineering, I said, I got to jump and do something else. So I spoke to my dad, spoke to his friends, and they said, yo, there's this new field called health and safety. So I looked into it, and I was fascinated. This was a field where you can design systems and trainings in order to save people's lives. I found that to be a humbling, job profile. And so that's what I did. I applied for a master's in environmental engineering with a focus on occupational health and safety. And I've been in health and safety ever since. And I love what I do. And because I love what I do, I find the energy, the discretionary energy to innovate in the field. That's why I'm doing a PhD, because I feel I can add value to the field. I can add knowledge to the field of health and safety. I do things like, speak at events. I do things like, chair organizations like IOSH, etc. If you do not love what you do, you will not be able to innovate and to add value to the field. So if you are in a field, whether it's health and safety or others, and you do not feel motivated, I encourage you. I'm not telling you to quit and have no income, but what I encourage you to do is to dig deep and to try and find what is it that rocks your boat? What is it that innovates you? So what is it that motivates you so that you can maybe slowly switch out and do something that you do love? Now that leads to the second point, which I already mentioned: be amazing at what you do. So I finished my master's in environmental engineering, and I joined I went back to the UAE. My parents were there, and I joined a company called Target Engineering. That was a construction company. And my philosophy is to do the best you can, and whether that meant staying after hours, doing night shifts to see if things were well. And so I was responsible at Target Engineering for implementing ISO 14001. The company never had done so, so I was responsible for that. But I was also sent to numerous projects, on Das Island in Ruwais, and I gave it my best. I truly worked really, really hard. And Target had a project with a company called ECL. They were building the anode rotting shop and hot bath removal facility at EGA, Emirates Global Aluminium, or EMAL as it used to be called. And ECL was having difficulty with their safety. They had an Australian HSE manager, and they had a French supervisory team. And these guys were at it. They would fight all the time. They could not get along. And so ECL looked to Target, the contractor, and said, look, do you have anybody that speaks French? And so I was nominated because I spoke French. There weren't many HSE professionals back then that could speak French in the area. So I took the job. I was seconded to ECL, which I later found out it was owned by the mining giant Rio Tinto. And so I quickly joined the company. Brian was a mentor to me. He taught me a lot, but my boss eventually had a stroke. He because of age, because of different reasons, he had a stroke and he had to be flown out to Australia. And so the French supervisory team, they told the management, hey, do not hire anybody else. You take this guy and you put him the HSE manager. And so with a year and a half of experience, I was promoted to HSE manager for this, $120 million turnkey project. And, with commissioning 650 people peak, it was one heck of a learning curve, I can tell you that. And I did exceptionally well. I gave it my best, like I normally do. And I quickly, winning awards and things like that from EGA, I quickly caught the attention of Rio Tinto. And as a result, they offered me a job directly. They said, look, would you like to come on board and manage our Middle East operations? Mind you, this is now a guy with 2.5 years of experience. This is a huge jump. So I did not agree to join ECL. What they told me in the interview, when they sent me the actual contract, it did not reflect what we had discussed. So I refused the job. But a couple of months later, I learned, in the back what was happening. Rio Tinto pushed ECL and said, you hire that guy. This guy is, he's good. He's a guy that gives it his best. So they came back a second time, said, look, sorry, we had a bit of trouble, but now we can offer you the package that we discussed. And so I joined Rio Tinto. But the lesson to learn from that, ladies and gentlemen, is be amazing at what you do. You often hear people say, I'm not paid enough to do this. If they pay me more, I will give the effort, but I'm not paid enough to do that. That is the wrong attitude, ladies and gentlemen. If you do your best, you will shine. People will notice, people will see you. And I'll tell you what, from my career, I've worked with people where whenever I go anywhere, I have certain individuals that I would like to take with me because they are amazing at what they do. They give it their best and they shine. So that is the lesson. I invite you to read a very, very interesting book called The Leader Who Had No Title, which talks about this in great detail. It's a very interesting book. I encourage you to get it. The Leader Who Had No Title by Robin Sharma. The third point in this lesson is be with integrity. Do not lie. Do not cheat. Do not do any Alibaba stuff, because you will suffer in the rest of your career, right? I remember early on in my career, I helped somebody get a job. My network is big, so people, the GM was looking for a person, and I recommended a certain individual who I thought was really good. I didn't know him personally. I knew him generally. I didn't know him personally. I didn't know what his work ethic was like, but I recommended him, and he got the job. He was interviewed. He got the job, and I'll tell you what. I got a complaint very early on from the GM. He's like, "Who did you recommend to us? Right? This guy is, his work ethic is not what we were expecting." So many years down the line, this individual lost his job, and he reached out to me. He said, look, do you have anything? Do you know anybody? And I did have something. I knew somebody that was looking, but I did not recommend him because I learned that he doesn't give his best. He maybe talks on the phone a lot during work hours, and he's doing his own personal stuff. So he lost my trust. And it's very important throughout your career, ladies and gentlemen, to have integrity. If you talk on the phone for personal issues during work, that's fine. But what I do is if I spoke for 20 minutes, I will give 20 minutes back to the company. It's really important to be with integrity because people will remember, people will notice, and you will not be as successful based on my experience if you do not lead with integrity, and that will help you lead teams. I found, the studies, the academia shows you that, integrity is a big part of leadership. If you don't have integrity, people won't trust you as a leader. So integrity is a big thing, not only in leadership, but also in career development. So that is lesson number one, ladies and gentlemen, be your best. Now, when I worked for, I joined Rio Tinto, I worked for them, it was about 4 or 5 years then. And I realized, look, I have got some amazing experience. I have got a master's in environmental engineering with a focus on occupational health and safety, but I wasn't being approached. I would have thought that, I would get a job by then, but I was with them for 5 years and I wasn't growing, and I wanted to grow. I was thirsty for growth, and there was no growth opportunities back then in the company. I would have to relocate. I wasn't interested in relocating. So I met a friend of mine. I don't know if you guys know Muhammad Fahmi Hussein. He was the HSE manager for EGA back in the day. He currently works for General Electric. He's a leader at General Electric. But I saw him at the supermarket and he said, what's going on? And I said, look, man, I've been with the company for 5 years. I want to grow, but I'm not being approached by any recruiters, by any headhunters. I don't understand. I've got the experience. I've implemented management systems. I've got huge experience on the field. I've got the qualifications. I have a master's degree. And he said, look, send me your CV and I'll take a look. And I sent him my CV and he came back to me. He said, Islam, you've got a master's degree, fine, but that's not what recruiters are looking for in the Middle East. They're looking for the NIBOSH. They're looking for the IOSH and the IRSM and these things. And I'm like, but I've got a master's. I've got things much higher than these qualifications. He said, that's what the market wants. You need to develop. You need to keep developing. And that's what I did. Next day I woke up, I registered for the international diploma with NIBOSH. I registered with IOSH. I registered with IIRSM. I started working to the CRSP qualification. I started working for the International Register of Certified Auditors qualification. I just went at it all. And believe me, within a year, I had some recruiters knocking on my door. So you need to keep developing. And the first point, after having said that, the first point is to have a growth mindset. What is a growth mindset? There's a growth mindset and there's a fixed mindset. A growth mindset is, look, I don't speak English well enough. The international diploma is difficult, but I'm going to try. I'm going to do it. And I may fail once, I may fail twice, but eventually I will get there. That is a growth mindset. A fixed mindset is, my English is not good enough. I'm not going to pass. I'm not going to try. That is a fixed mindset. If you have a fixed mindset, ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you to start changing that. I made a video on this topic. You're welcome to look it up on my social media platform. But there are very influential people in the world who, if they had a fixed mindset, they would not be where they are today. The likes of Michael Jordan, the likes of Alibaba's CEO, Mr. Ma. These guys have growth mindsets. It's tough, it's challenging, but I will try. If you say, I'm not even going to try, your cells will just go, and your whole system, you're not going to have the energy to try, because already you've made up your mind. You've made up your mind that you will not succeed. You need to have a growth mindset. And for those of you interested, I encourage you to read a book by the name of Mindset by Professor Carol Dweck that talks about this very subject in much, much more detail. The second point on this in this lesson is have a development plan. If you are just roaming around in life with no plan, with no future, you don't know what you're doing in 1 year, you don't know where you're going in 3 years, I encourage you not to do that. That's just roaming around life with no objective. I have got a 1-year plan. I know what I want in 1 year, and I can backtrack. What do I need to do today? What do I need to do in 3 months to get to that objective? I know what I want in 5 years. Have a plan, because once you have a plan, once you know what you want, you can put a plan in place to get there. It's really important to have a development plan. And do not forget, if you want to make money, you need to invest money, right? These things sometimes cost a lot of money. A PhD costs me about $15,000 a year, but I'm a firm believer that if I do it, right, I can progress in my career. I can get to where I want. So that is lesson number 2, ladies and gentlemen. Keep growing, keep developing. Do not sit there and just let time fly and you're still in the same place, especially in the field of health and safety. It is a fast moving field. If you're just depending on your NIBOSH diploma from 20 years ago, that's not enough. You've got to keep growing. So that is lesson number 2. Lesson number 3 is a very important one. It is find a mentor. And I'll tell you a little story. When I was back in the UAE, so I moved from ECL, Rio Tinto. I moved to another company called Danaher, which eventually became Fortive. And I was there again for 4 years. And I had interviews. I was, doing interviews and I was getting jobs, but I wasn't interested because, for several reasons. But I said to myself, I need to find somebody who can kind of look at my career, look at my CV and tell me what I need to do. Somebody who's been there, who's done that, and can advise me on how I can grow in the field. So I went on LinkedIn and I started doing a search. I was looking for people who kind of had a similar profile, PhD, had good experience, et cetera, et cetera. And I came across a name. I'm sure many of you are familiar with him, Mr. Rob Cooling, VP of Expo 2020. And I said to myself, I'm gonna talk to this guy. I want him to give me advice, right? And life happened. I didn't approach him for a couple of weeks, but I was invited to an event with Clive Lloyd, for those of you who know him. And when I went to the event, I was looking through the attendance sheet. I signed and I was looking at the names. And lo and behold, guess who was at that event? Mr. Rob Cooling. I'm like, all right, this is my chance. I'm going to make up a strategy to bump into him on purpose, and I'm gonna have a conversation with him, and I'm gonna get myself a meeting with this individual. So what I did, I started looking at, I identified him amongst the attendees, and I saw that he got up to leave because Expo 2020 is a pretty busy job to have. So I left the auditorium and I stood beside the exit. And when he came out, I started making my, I walked in the opposite way. I came towards him, walked towards him, and I stopped in front of him and I said, Rob Cooling? And he's like, yes. I'm like, oh, I wanted to reach out to you, and I saw you on LinkedIn. Can I have a meeting with you? I'd like your advice on my career. And he said, sure. And so he gave me his number. I called him up and we arranged a meeting. I went down to Expo, sat with him, and he gave me some really precious advice. Actually, the reason I became chair of IOSH was because of Rob Cooling. That was the advice, one of the pieces of advice he gave me. He said, you got to build yourself a network. And IOSH is a perfect opportunity to do that. And so my fullest respect to Mr. Rob Cooling, and that's what I did. I became chair, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But the lesson to draw here is find yourself a mentor. Do not reinvent the wheel. I'm hoping that there are some young individuals on this call today, young professionals. I would have paid money, to get some of this advice. If I could give advice to my younger self, I would take this presentation. I would give that to my younger self, because I would have gotten up the food chain much faster than I did, right? Because people have experience. They've been there, they've done that, they've made the mistakes, they've learned the lessons. Why should you make the mistakes as well, right? find somebody that can advise you, find somebody that can mentor you, right? And do not reinvent the wheel. And once you do find a mentor, once you grow in your career, once you become more and more successful, pay it back. You mentor somebody or many people, really. Give back to the community because you need to pay it back. That's how the world should work. So that's lesson number 3, find a mentor. And the last lesson, ladies and gentlemen, is network. So after my discussion with Rob Cooling, I applied to become chair of IOSH UAE, and I won. And IOSH UAE opened up a lot of doors for me, right? And back to lesson number 1, be amazing at what you do. I hope I was amazing at what I did, but I gave it my best. I sacrificed a lot of time from my family to give IOSH UAE the amount of time and effort that I did. And as a result, that network, my network grew stupendously, right? You don't have to become a chair to grow your network. That's not what I'm proposing. But what I am proposing is get to know other professionals in your field. And these are platforms where you can get to know people, branch events, not only with IOSH, there's other avenues as well, but that's the avenue I chose, IOSH. But you get to meet people. I have personally met people at IOSH, in the branch events who I have recommended for jobs, who have jobs because of a branch event. I personally have met people who, when I came to Canada, a couple of months later, I would get calls and say, where are you? Are you interested to join the company? These are people that I know simply through IOSH. They've not seen my work, but simply through IOSH, they pick up the phone. Where are you? Look, we've got an opening at our company. Would you be interested to come lead the HSE department? Network, network, network. It's not what you know many times. It is who you know. So I encourage you to build that network. So those are the 4 lessons, ladies and gentlemen. Be amazing at what you do. Keep growing. Find yourself a mentor and build your network. I hope I have done justice to the topic. These are personal stories which I have shared with you. I'm hoping that you found some benefit in what I've said, especially the younger folks, the folks who are starting off in their careers. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. These are some key messages from my life, from my own personal life. Find yourself a mentor. And I'm really happy to entertain any questions for those who have them.
Thank you very much, Islam. Indeed, it was a really comprehensive presentation. Right now, you covered everything, so we don't have a question from the members. But there is one question someone wants: how can he find a mentor in UAE?
How can you find a mentor in UAE? Well, look, I'll go back to what I suggested. I'll tell you what. Approaching people on LinkedIn to find a job, like I showed you at the beginning, that doesn't work. That does not work. However, if you approach somebody and instead of saying, sir, do you have a job? Instead you say, so look, I'm young in my career. I came across your profile. I would like you to advise me. Can I take some time from you so that you can tell me how to grow in my career? I would like to grow in my career. I would like for you to be my mentor. That will have more success than simply going up to somebody saying, look, can I have a job? You never know. That person may start mentoring you and he may find, this guy is pretty good. If I have an opportunity, I'll maybe interview him and offer him a job. So I encourage you to go on LinkedIn, look up profiles, look up people who you think can be, who are successful, who have grown in the corporate ladder, who you aspire to be like, and reach out to them. Reach out to them and say, look, I'm looking for a mentor. And people will, like I said, people will be more happy to entertain you that way than simply, sir, do you have a job? People don't want to entertain that. Another way to find a mentor, go to branch events. Go to branch events, find people, speakers that talk, who have a lot of experience, approach them and say, look, I'm looking for a mentor. Would you be interested in mentoring me? These are ways that you can find a mentor. And again, it's really important. I strongly encourage you to find a mentor, because mentors have been there, have done that. They can cut your journey in half. They can give you advice that you don't have to make the same mistakes. Maybe there's something you're doing that is not correct. Like me, when I was in ECL, 5 years, I wasn't approached by headhunters. The guy looked at my CV, and in 3 minutes, he looked at my CV and he said, look, man, that's not what the market is asking for. You need to do something the market is asking for. That's the NEBOSH, that's the IOSH, that's the IRSM, and et cetera, BCSP, the CSP and the CRSP and those things. In 3 minutes, that's all he did. He looked at my CV because he's been there. He's done that. He has the experience. He knows the market. I was young then. So strongly encourage you to find a mentor.
Thank you very much. And that's it from me. Mazhar, the floor is with you. Thank you. Thanks.
Once again, Islam, from the bottom of my heart, excuse me, and on behalf of the committee, from Catherine, from IOSH UK, it's really honor for us to have you. And it was one of the simple and straightforward presentation with no here and there. It's straightforward, and I believe it reached to the bottom of mind to everyone. Especially we have a lot of young guys, and they will definitely get a lot of benefits. Especially the touching point of your presentation is to plan your journey. And I think we all are failing somehow. And that's for learning for me as a chair as well, to reconcile everything, to reconsider everything, and to think about the IOSH promotion and etc. etc. So thank you very much once again on behalf of the committee and everyone. The attendees, thank you very much for being with us through this entire event. And soon, inshallah, we will be bringing more such events. One thing to link with the Islam Today presentation is that basically, if anyone from the attendees, member or non-members, are entrusted to bring something and use the IOSH platform, we are open to them. They can contact me directly. They can contact the IOSH UAE branch on LinkedIn. They can contact Asif as well. And we will be giving you a free platform where you can explore yourself. You can talk about any topic you would like to. You can be a mentor. You can bring some good topic to us. So that's from us. Anything would you like to say, Islam, before I wind up?
Yeah, look, I'll just touch on what you just said. I'll encourage the membership to use this platform. I know it may be difficult to stand up in front of hundreds of people and talk, but the growth mindset, like I spoke about, have a growth mindset. Find the courage within you to, you may stumble the first time, you may stumble the second time, but you need to practice. And this is a perfect opportunity to stand up, to share your knowledge, to get advice. People will come to you afterward and say, look, I encourage you to look at this or look at that, but you need to start somewhere. And, bless you, Syed, for offering that opportunity to membership, because it is a huge opportunity. I remember we did that when I was chair, and I was surprised. People were not coming forth. And I was surprised, guys, you've got an opportunity to present in front of hundreds of people. You've got an opportunity to build your network, to showcase your knowledge and to make connections. Use that opportunity. What are you waiting for? So I encourage you guys, I encourage the membership, take on this opportunity. It is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Normally you get only speakers who are high up there, and but he's giving you the opportunity to with even 2 years of experience. Maybe you have something to share. Use it, so I encourage the membership to take that opportunity on.
So again, to everyone, please reach out to us, uae@ioshnetwork.com, or come through LinkedIn, call me directly or approach me directly on my WhatsApp number. Once again, thank you very much to Islam, and thank you very much to everyone. We are winding up. Have a great evening, and bye-bye.
Thank you.